many faces that I've seen in other times, times we've met even in other cities. And this is so beautiful, not only just to see all your faces and to meet so many new people today who started watching the show. When I'm going to say when I was a baby, no, I wasn't a baby. But I was like, well, I was in my mid-20s, and they were like 6 years old, and their mothers allowed them to watch Dark Shadows. You know, when they came home after school, she'd pick them up quick. I heard more stories, picked them up quick, and cookies ready, and milk ready, and ready, the show was now on, ready, set, go! So now I'm here today, and I've heard so many beautiful stories from people. Some of them came, this is their first time being here, and it's the last time, as far as we know, unless it's a time in heaven where we all get to celebrate together. That they just met here at the convention, and they feel such a connection with one another, and feel so joy to be here, not only for all of you, but for all of us too, that we're all together. We are really in a place, it's part of what I really focus on, this planet we're living on, to be in a place of peace, of joy, of light, for everyone. Everyone's included. And that we are creating, and even by this, what we may call playtime, entertainment time that we're doing, we are creating a more positive world that is happening already. The chaos, craziness that we see, don't buy into it. Yeah. Breathe, open your hearts to one another, and know this world is changing for good. Changing even better. This place is so much pause and forever. So just to know every single, just one more little line. Every single one of you are perfect in your own being. And none of you has to feel alone. We are never meant to be alone. And so we allow our heart, even when we hurt sometimes, we shut our hearts down, and then we feel alone. But those are the times to open it, to breathe it in, and see in other person's eyes and energy, they're feeling the same. Reach out a hand, reach out a heart, reach out a smile. It works. We are all energy beings. It works. It is shifting, changing. I'm seeing it in millions of people as I travel around our globe, seeing it happening, and it's so beautiful. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining with all of us. We are all in unity and in light and in love and peace. Unity!
Beautifully said. Welcome to the Ladies of Dark Shadows panel. I am Danielle, a.k.a. Penny Dreadful. And I am honored to be joined by these lovely ladies today, and I'm going to introduce them to you, although they need no introduction. Terrain Crawford, who played Beth Chavez and Denise House. And also the nurse in House of Dark Shadows. We have Donna Wandry, who played two versions of Roxanne, the parallel and, of course, Sharon Smith Lentz, who played Barnabas' little sister, Sarah Collins. Now, before we get started with these questions, Donna has a message for us from our beloved Marie Wallace, who could not be with us, alas, this weekend. So, Donna, would you please share that with us?
Marie and I belong to a theater company together. I talk to her every week. She is phenomenal. And we were all ready to go yesterday to come here, and she called at 11 in the morning and said, family problem. And you know, she's fine. She called me this morning, much too early. and really extends to you her wonderful love and best wishes. She really wanted to be here. So I promised I would just say hello from her. I will take back all of your good thoughts to her. And, well, yeah, if we ever do this again, Marie will be there. Thank you for that.
Now, we're going to get to the Dark Shadows questions, of course, but before we do, I would love to hear, and I'm sure you all would love to hear, what the ladies of Dark Shadows have been up to lately and what they're working on and what they're doing. So starting with Sharon and going down the line, what have you been up to, Sharon?
Well, I'm thinking that the majority of people here, at least half of the people here, are my Facebook friends. Woohoo! Colin's cousins. So you guys are pretty much aware of my situation. I am 24/7 caregiver for my husband of 40 plus years who's disabled right now. Well, is. And that he takes up a lot of my time. You know, he's very demanding and needy. No, love him to death. It's just, you know, life, on life's terms. We all have family issues. Yeah, family issues. On the other side of that coin, though, my 35-year-old daughter had a baby 16 months ago. I'm not ashamed to tell you that I am one of those grandmoms who cannot show you enough pictures or talk about her enough. She's 60 months old. Her name is Sylvia Rose, and she is just the smartest, cutest, bestest, most beautiful child ever. See what I mean? It's obnoxious. But I had her for, they live in Baltimore, I live in Pennsylvania, so it's a little bit tough. I'd like to see her a whole lot more. But my daughter and her husband was going to Chicago for a wedding, and she said, my daughter says to me, Mom, do you think that you would be able to watch Celia for 4 days? No. Are you kidding me? You'll be lucky if you get her back. So sure enough, she comes to my house, and we're all giddy with anticipation. And there came a point during one of the days where, you know, we're in the living room and she's playing, and she's very good at independent play, as was my daughter. And so she's playing, and I'm just kind of watching her. I had read her a story and whatever. I started to cry because it was like reliving my daughter Jessica all over again. She kind of looks like her, she has the same personality, and I was just feeling so blessed to have the opportunity to relive that time in my life, because I have to tell you, aside from Dark Shadows, the highlight of my life was when my children were small. Like, I'm a good mommy, and I was good at it. But, you know, as far as other things that I've done more creatively, or however you would like to describe that, I do conventions. I do all kinds of conventions. I do monster conventions. I do comic book conventions, nostalgia conventions. I've even been to wrestling conventions. Some of the nicest guys, wrestlers, and they're like, they come over and they're like, oh my God, Sarah from Dark Shadows. I was in York, Pennsylvania less than a month ago, and the gentleman sitting next to me, and of course I can't remember his name right now, but he's a very well-known mixed martial arts guy. Well, there's a picture on my Facebook page. I come up to hear him. And I'm like, can I get my picture taken with you? You know, professional courtesy, whatever. He's like, yeah, sure. And he's young. I don't know how old he is, but next to me, everybody's young anyway. But he's really young. So I go up and I saddle up next to him, and I realize, like, his nipple is right there. You'll be happy to know that I refrained from asking him how the weather was up there. I behaved myself. No, but he was so sweet, as is a lot of them. And he was one of the giddy, well, he wasn't a run home from school, but, you know, he was a giddy Dark Shadows fan, which I found absolutely hysterical. But I love to do these conventions, and it's not about fame and fortune, because you don't really get paid. And it's not about ego, because I'm just not about that. What it is, and I just said this to somebody yesterday, when they said, why do you do these things? The reason I do these things is when a person of either sex comes up to my table and I see them revert to 12 years old, or 9 years old, or 8 years old, and they get this look on their face and in their eyes, and you can't wipe the smile off their face. And they're like, reverted back to their childhood, a good part of their childhood, and they're like, oh my God, you're Sarah. I'm also an old lady. I'm older than the matriarch of the Collins family was during that time, which is really kind of scary. But I mean, that's why I do it. And I've oftentimes said, as long as people, yourselves included, continue to want to hear what I have to say or see me or get some kind of thrill out of the fact that we're here, that's what it's all about. You guys are the best. You have to be the most loyal fans ever. Just be following us for 6 years. You need to know I'll speak for myself. We thrive off of that. You guys are the bestest. And I've oftentimes said that after these weekends, these lovely conventions where I get treated like royalty and everybody says how cute I am and how nice I am, that I go home and I scrub floors, dishes, take out the trash. So this is hype for me. I love it. Thank you so much for coming.
What she doesn't understand is that she's younger than we are. So many years.
And yet she looks younger than me.
Anyway, it's such a pleasure to see people I've worked with, and also, really, it's you guys. I agree. You spoke for all of us. It's you guys. People back in New York go, what are you doing? Marie and I belong to a theater company, American Renaissance Theater Company, and I perform regularly. And sometimes people come to it, so anybody who's I meant you come to it. Other people always come to it. But it's wonderful. My real love has always been the theater. And so it's wonderful to have an outlet. Directors, writers, producers. You know, if you're ever around, look up ARTC and see what's going on, because we are officially off Broadway. But we did a show in January, and it was in the middle of the blizzard, and we sold out every night. And Marie was there. Marie was there. Well, it's our theater company. I mean, of course I would come. COVID really did a horrible disservice to humanity and the business. And the business for people, especially, I would say, older women that I am really in the category of, live auditions no longer happen. You audition in your living room, in front of what hopefully is a nice wall, and you take one and you read, sometimes with a person, if you could beg them to come in and read, and it has nothing to do with what we used to do. So during COVID, I started writing again, because at least you can write by yourself and submit pages and all sorts of things. First thing I did was a history of my parish, which I'm happy is going to come out soon. 150 years of research. I love the research. But for the last several years, I have, if any of you come to my table, somebody's ringing. It's probably me. There is something called a series of books for young audience. And I have been editing all those books, and I will eventually do the reading of all of them, which will make me very happy. It's called the Sword Lily Parables, and they're fabulous. They're for young adults. I don't think there's anything good kids are reading anymore. It really talks about what happens in a world where people who they just stop really caring about each other. And it is, in its own way, a morality tale, but it is for a young audience. So there are animals that speak, there are devils and angels, there are good people, there are people who are pushing it, they're really pushing it. My favorite character is a little beaver named Scout, and she's in charge of getting everybody around and making things better. And it has been a joy to do that. I hope I'm going to do a show in January up in New Hampshire. I fell in love with this production in New York this year. It's called Prime. June Squibb was in it. It's an astounding show about not AI, but what AI could become when people die in your family. We can make a recreation just to keep your mind on track. And you see how it goes with a woman whose husband has died. And it's potent. Anyway, hope.
Wow, what I've been doing lately. Goodness. Depends on what we talk about lately. As I'm sitting here, I just have a moment of remembering that one of the reasons I felt I was led to acting was because I wanted to feel comfortable speaking in front of people. And if I played a different character, I could feel more comfortable than being me. I could speak the words of the character. I could have the emotions of the character. It didn't have to be me. So if anyone was critical, it was just like, oh, they're not playing her right. They're not playing her well. And so it was only over time that I realized how shy I was, and then I grew up not having, I feel this emotion now, and I have a feeling there's some people here who feel that, not being heard when I was a child. How many people have had that feeling, that as you were a child you weren't heard? No one heard you. You had things to say, you had things you experienced, things you saw. The people went, shut up, you shouldn't talk about that, people are going to think you're crazy, go to your room, right? And not be allowed to be who you are, to learn who you really are and the special gifts you have to bring to this earth. That's part of where I am. I really feel, whether one calls God or spirit or the universe, there's an energy force that created us all and created us all to be in unity with one another, and to be in care and support of one another. That's what we're here for. That's what we came for. And that's what I believe. So I may, again, be crazy, and that's okay. I was called crazy a lot in my life. And my grandmother taught me a little song to sing, boom, boom, make faith to be crazy. And said, you just go ahead, child, you just go ahead. So I had this wonderful and I always had a special feeling for children. Always, from the time I was 6 years old, so I had a feeling I was going to be doing something for children here in this world. And I had 5 younger sisters after that. I mean, so I had a lot to do with little children. But when I came on Dark Shadows, the role that I had first, and I was thinking about that now, I forgot, the role that I had first was a ghost. That's Ghost. And what did she came to do? To deliver a message to the children, for protection for them. It was like, wow, I'm getting chills right now. We've been talking about that. That really stuck with me, the feeling that I could even do a show that lots of people were listening to that could touch on that in some way. It could touch in a way to listen to the children, to protect the children, etc. So during the 90s, that's one of, I could just go to that period of time. During that 90s, for a 10-year period, I focused on peace in the world. I focused on counseling with people to help them deal with touching their child inside and doing healing work with that beautiful being so they could do what they wanted to do with this planet, what they came here for. They could not feel, it could feel that I'm not alone anymore. So I did all my training and all of that, but the children were always forefront. And I also had done Dark Shadows. I started doing little documentary videos that had to do with people doing things in the world where no one may have seen or heard about them, but they were doing with such care, such compassion. It didn't matter what it cost, but it could uplift, whether it was for indigenous people, whether it was for little children who were doing jobs in their local communities that were phenomenal, and no one heard about them. No one knew about them. They were making differences for the younger children in their communities who were being kidnapped, who were being raped, who were being killed, who were working as what I would call slaves, domestic violence kind of things. And I started hearing more about that and saying, their voices need to be heard. It'll start making me cry because I have such a feeling of sadness for them and said, what can I do? What can I do? Send me, send me. You know? And so I started doing, I had a job that I had a grants administrator for Peace and Social Justice projects when I lived in New York for 6 years. And it was an individual man who had money to give, and he and I talked with one another, and I said, something has to, this is being done here, this is being done here, but it's not being done for the younger children. So I created a project with a man in Germany who's a professor for early childhood education, and met him at a conference where I was doing a presentation on peace education. And we talked about it and said there isn't any peace education for the youngest children, for them to learn from the youngest age how to resolve violence in a non-conflictual way, without violence, to learn to say, hey, we can talk about it. I might think differently than you, but that doesn't mean I hate you and I'm going to kill you or you're on the wrong side, you know. And so it struck me that more of that needed to be out there in the world. And so I did get a grant from the company that I was administrating grants for 2 years for this early childhood education project beginning. And so he and I worked together on it. He went through in Germany, trained in Germany, and over the years, before the 90s, that was growing, that was being shared in different countries. I then started doing work around the United Nations and connected with people doing peace education. And again, only the universe, only God made this possible, but I was able to get, because I had a camera and I trained in video camera, that I could get a media pass for the United Nations for their human rights meetings every summer in Geneva that could actually go. I could be as close as I am to you right now, filming you, and you may be the head of the country, talking about, oh, we're just great at human rights, we take care of everybody, no one is left out, etc. And I could interview then the representative from a non-governmental organization who was also interview them and have them say, unfortunately, what our president was saying, whatever is not true. I'm a child of abuse. I'm helping other children with abuse because they're not paying attention. The United Nations had a document that was going to be, like, first it was human rights, then it was the rights of women, and then the rights of people disabled. The children have been the last, which was the rights of the child. And during 1991, it was in Geneva, it was like, click on it, yes, it's accepted. All countries in the world were asking them to sign this document. And so that would be discussed every summer. So I would be at that conference, and again, be able to really close with the camera, and I heard some people from some countries go, oh, we know her, she's no one. And I would get more information to share with young people, especially to bring back to their homes, to teach their children about what some people think about, what people do, etc. So just that's a little lead to say, Dark Shadows helped lead me to that, by that, knowing that I came. It's so emotional sometimes with such joy. Knowing that it was like a hint that I came in the world to do something with and for the children, and protecting the education, protecting being with them, having their voices heard. And so that just was such an incredible reminder, looking back over, I don't know how many of you look back over the years and say, how did I get where I am now? And look and say, wow, this happened. I never would have unless I met such and such, or unless I had heard about this. And now you're in a place of joy with where you are and when you are. And sometimes you'll have that aha moment of saying, wow, this is awesome. Can you realize, I already know all these things. I just never thought, I never said I'm going to be a teacher, or I'm going to be a puppy dog. I never said that. Or I did say that, and I never felt comfortable in it because it was labeling me, it was limiting me, but I didn't realize it. And what I've realized and what I've touched on with children, and also when I do counseling with people, that you don't ever have to be, and why I'm saying this is part of what I do. It's like part of my ongoing things in a variety of ways. And so if anyone feels like they're supposed to be only doing this, open up, breathe.
That's
a
great,
lot
that's
more.
great advice.
There's a lot more that you can do. And the great thing next is just to say, and it's what I teach with the children, I teach with the programs I do, and in terms of the rights of the child, I was the first person, and I'm not bragging to say this, but I'm just saying it's part of a thread to be when you're committed to doing what you really feel in your heart and spirit, that the way is open for that. And that is, I wanted to make sure that people heard the voices of children because they have so much to say. And I'm saying again to the child within you, the same thing, those things that you wanted to share and say, they're not gone yet. And you might want to listen more to them because you can hear again and go, wow, I never thought I was enough to be able to do such and such. Or someone told me I wasn't enough, or there's no way, I came from the wrong family, or the wrong country, or the wrong religion, whatever. But to get in touch with that again and say, you matter. Every single one of you matter. We all matter. And when we know that about one another, and we know that we came here, and that's part of my belief, that we came here in this particular lifetime to do something very powerful. What I started off with before was to create peace and light and joy in our planet. That this was intended to be a planet of love, of joy, of growing, not competition, not violence, not saying I'm better than, but not being focused on just surviving, but thriving. So having us heard, our voices heard, and every single one of you has a voice. The things you believe in or don't believe in, whatever, many of you are afraid to say what that is because no one will listen to you and think you were crazy. But it's important to be that. So what I've done was set up ways to have children be able to speak at United Nations World Conferences and other organizations' world conferences and help them in training as media people when they were just teenagers, so they could interview even like the head of their own country, where that head would never even pay attention to them in their country.
And Terrain, you have a table here, right? You have
I have a table here.
So you can go see Terrain and talk to her about her work with United
Yes,
Nations. It's
yes.
wonderful. And I'm glad you brought up the idea of children, communicating with children, how Beth was delivering a message to children, because Dark Shadows was so instrumental in the childhoods of many people here who watched Dark Shadows when they were kids and teenagers as well. And Dark Shadows continues to resonate. We're here celebrating the 60th anniversary of the show. So starting with Sharon, I mean, do you have any thoughts on, because you played a child in the show, why Dark Shadows resonates with young people? Why does Dark Shadows have such an appeal for kids? Why do you think it was such an escape for these young kids to run home from school to watch the show? Any thoughts on that?
Of course. When I was on the show, I was 9 and 10 years old. I had absolutely no idea of the significance that this show would ultimately have on people. I had no clue. I was just a little girl having a good time. I was lucky to be on the show. As a lot of the actors from the show have said before, like, it was a job, and you went and you did it, and you gave it your best, but you never really thought it was going to come back 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. It was kind of a one and done, this is my job, whatever. But in the years following, when I started to go to Dark Shadows conventions, when I really realized the impact that the show had had on so many people for so many different reasons, at so many different ages. I mean, when I hear people say, oh, I watched Dark Shadows with my grandma when I was 3 years old, I'm like, what? And then, of course, I have other people that say, oh, I was 9 years old, I was in 4th grade or whatever, and I wasn't allowed to watch Dark Shadows because my parents thought it was evil and whatever. So I would sneak down the block to my girlfriend's house because her parents worked, so we would watch it. You know, having said that, the impact of that on them, there are a lot of children and people, teenagers, that feel on the edge of society a lot of times. They don't feel that they fit in. They're not in the popular group. And I think that it spoke to them in a way because Jonathan / Barnabas was what has often been recalled a reluctant vampire. He was in a position where he was kind of the guy that you love to hate. You know, he was supposed to be horrible, but he was not. Like, he didn't want to do what he had to do, you know, and so he faked it. He what do they call it, when people on the spectrum, they masking, thank you so much. I kept thinking face. They mask. They act as if to, you know, join in with the crowd, but inside they're feeling different and empty and wrong. And I think that they fed into that with Jonathan, and it made them feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Also, I hear stories about latchkey children that came home from school to an empty house. And you know, this show was on, and it wasn't like anything else that was on TV at the time or since. And they really felt like they got into it because it was so different. And don't we all love to be different when we're young teenagers? We don't want to go with the flow. We don't want to be our parents, you know, cut out, whatever, cookie cutter. We want to be different. We want to get away from that. So they had that. And I mean, the stories that I have heard over the years from people is just amazing to me how much it meant to them. They got from it what they weren't getting elsewhere. And I had no clue about that when I was actually doing the show, only because I get to go to conventions, and I don't want to harp on it. But once again, by going to these conventions, I get to hear these stories. I feel like I have an intimate relationship with a lot of these people because they shared the most intimate things with me, how it affected them. You know, it was almost like therapy in some places they didn't even realize it. And it, you know, that's pretty cool that a show would make that kind of impact. And I'm sure even in this crowd alone, there's multiple stories of how this show affected their lives on that kind of a level. It wasn't just entertainment. It was far from just entertainment. A lot of people lock into a particular character. You know, yes, Angelique was absolutely beautiful, and all the boys fell in love with her, and they all fantasized about Angelique, you know, or Maggie Evans, you know, she was the girl next door kind of girl, and it was like, oh my God, she's so beautiful, and she's so approachable, and, you know, she was my girlfriend, and I'd break her out of that cell in a heartbeat, you know. Or they key into, you know, Reverend Trask, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, you know, that's it, like their whole religious training went right out the window. So, I mean, seriously, for a half an hour, 20 minutes, you know, daily show, like, it's just crazy, the impact it had. And also, I love the story of when people say, you know, our parents, well, a lot of our parents watched soap operas, or our mommies and grandparents would watch soap operas. And you had General Hospital and Search for Tomorrow and As the World Turns and all those things that were all kind of the same, you know, who's doing who kind of thing. Sorry. That's all I ever got out of it. But, you know, Grandma's show ends. She goes in the kitchen to make dinner. You know, it's like 3:30, 4 o'clock, whatever. She goes in to start making dinner. And all of a sudden, boom, this weird, black and white, ominous show comes on. The music, you know, God bless them with that music. And then to see a child kind of like, oh my gosh, there's a kid on this show. Like, this is cool. And then to find out the kids are ghosts. Like, yeah, I'm watching this. You know? It was nothing like it at the time. So very unique and very impactful. And who knew?
Donna, do you have anything to add?
No, they said more than I can even I honestly think, because I saw her a minute ago, I think the person who really, I know we all think Jonathan was the one that held the show together. I honestly think if Maggie hadn't been on the show, normal person. And as far as I can tell, everybody liked her. She didn't do disgusting things. She dressed nice.
She showed up on time, and I really think, honest Catherine, I really think that at some point, if you don't have a person that you can go, oh yeah, oh, I like her, because all of us, they're questionable, absolutely. So, thanks.
And we have about 1 minute left.
And
Terry, do you have
I
any?
just want to say one thing, and you have to know by now that Catherine is the linchpin that keeps this thing going.
I could just say one more thing, just of the information about what are we doing now, that in line with what I've touched on children and helping, et cetera, around the world, I am in the process of creating a not-for-profit that's called Imagine Our New World, that will be connecting young people around the world and creating projects together to talk about and bring forth what they're already sensing in their own spirits and they will be doing in the world. And a lot of ways for them to be able to do it, how to connect with one another, because I've already done it at a small scale, and now it's time to burst forward for this entire project to evolve.
I don't get this.